He was born into a world of revolution, a time when thrones were crumbling and new empires waited to be forged. From the island of Corsica came a man who would defy kings, reshape nations, and command millions. Napoleon Bonaparte, a brilliant general, undone by his own hubris. His rise was meteoric, his mind a weapon sharper than any sword. But as with all who reach too high, his fall would be just as spectacular. Because his greatest flaw was not knowing when to stop. Born in 1769 on Corsica, Napoleon was the son of a modest lawyer. Not noble, not royal, but ambitious. He grew up restless, brilliant, and obsessed with order and discipline. At the French military academy, he devoured books on history, strategy, and empire. His idols were Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. His dream, to surpass them both. When revolution engulfed France, it tore down the old order. Amid the anarchy, Napoleon saw opportunity. He rose fast through the ranks, fueled by pure intellect and audacity. At just 24, he crushed royalist uprisings in Paris. At 26, he led French armies in Italy and became a legend. In Italy, his genius was undeniable. Outnumbered and underfunded, he fought like a chess master commanding pawns of flesh and steel. His strategy was speed, precision, surprise. In one campaign, he defeated multiple Austrian armies and forced an entire continent to take notice. "Soldiers," he told his men, "you are hungry and naked, but I will lead you to glory." And he did. With each victory, his ambition grew. France adored him. The world began to fear him. But the victories that fed his fame also fed his belief that he could not fail. And when a man begins to think that, he no longer wins. He consumes himself. In 1798, Napoleon turned his gaze toward the east, Egypt, the gateway to India. He dreamed of an empire beyond Europe, of an immortal legacy. At the Battle of the Pyramids, his troops crushed the Mamluk cavalry. "From the heights of these pyramids," he told them, 40 centuries look down upon you." Yet even this victory could not save him from fate. The British Navy, led by Admiral Nelson, annihilated his fleet at the Battle of the Nile. His Eastern dream ended in isolation and defeat. But Napoleon, ever the survivor, returned to France, still a hero in the eyes of his people. France was weary of revolution, of chaos, of weak rulers. Napoleon seized the moment. In 1799, through a swift and bloodless coup, he became first consul, master of France in all but name. And by 1804, he crowned himself emperor, not by divine right, but by the force of his own will. When the Pope came to crown him, Napoleon took the crown from the pontiff's hands and placed it on his own head. The message was clear. He owed his power to no one but himself. He had reached the pinnacle, but again, he did not know when to stop. His empire stretched from Spain to Poland. His armies ruled the continent. His laws redefined it. The Napoleonic Code brought order, merit, and modern governance, a legacy that still shapes nations today. But his true genius shone on the battlefield. At Austerlitz in 1805, against the combined might of Russia and Austria, he executed one of history's greatest tactical masterpieces. With deception, timing, and precision, he shattered two empires in a single day. The Battle of the Three Emperors crowned him the greatest general of his age. Europe bowed before him. And yet, even as he stood at the summit, pride whispered that no summit was high enough. He could have stopped there, victorious, admired, immortal in glory. But he wanted more. More land, more power, more history to bear his name. The fundamental problem was not knowing when to stop. In 1812, blinded by ambition, he invaded Russia, a campaign too vast, too cold, too costly. He marched with 600,000 men, the greatest army Europe had ever seen. He expected a swift victory. Instead, he found only scorched earth and an endless winter. The Russians retreated, burning their own cities as they went. When winter came, it came with vengeance. Hunger, frost, and exhaustion devoured his army. Only a fraction of his men made it home. The invincible emperor had met his match, not in battle, but in nature itself. After Russia, the tide turned. One by one, his allies deserted him. At Leipzig, the Battle of Nations, he faced a Europe united against him and lost. In 1814, he was forced to abdicate and was exiled to the island of Elba. But Napoleon's story was not yet over. A year later, he escaped and returned to France. In a stunning march from the coast to Paris, not a single shot was fired against him. His old soldiers flocked to his side, crying, "Vive l'Empereur!" For 100 days, he was emperor once again. But destiny does not forgive the same mistake twice. June 18, 1815, Waterloo, his final gamble. Facing Wellington and Blucher, Napoleon fought with the brilliance of old, but fate had turned against him. His cavalry charges broke on the unyielding British lines. His reserves came too late, and by nightfall, the Emperor of Europe was defeated for good. He had built an empire of ambition, and it collapsed under its own weight. Because the main problem was not knowing when to stop. Exiled to the remote island of St. Helena, far from the glory of battle, he lived his final years in reflection. He wrote, he dreamed, and he remembered. Glory, he said, is fleeting, but obscurity is forever. History remembers him as both a conqueror and a visionary, a tyrant and a reformer. But above all, he serves as a warning that even the brightest minds can fall when pride becomes their only compass, and when ambition forgets its limits. Napoleon Bonaparte, a brilliant general, undone by his own hubris. A man who conquered everything, except himself. Because in the end, his only true enemy was not knowing when to stop. Thanks for watching. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like this video. And subscribe for more dives into the lives of history's most compelling figures. We'll see you in the next one.